Show.
All right, everyone, welcome back. Episode 214 of the 580 Show. This week we're joined by Matt Mills, owner of Lightning Fitness, and much more that we'll get into. But thanks for joining us, Matt.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're a guest I've wanted to have on for a long time. For I read you on Elite FTS a long time ago, and I still do. But owning a gym, a gym owner that I looked up to as well, and I've heard a lot of really positive things. Obviously, if you're in strongman, I think you've probably heard of Lightning Fitness by now. It's kind of, I think everyone just agrees that it's the most equipped gym, not even for strongman, just kind of the most equipped gym.
Yeah, we've
But
gotten around to having pretty much everything now. We used to be just strongman and powerlifting, but now I moved on to bodybuilding and wanted to have everything for that too.
Yeah. And you guys have some fighting stuff in there as well, right?
So we used to. We actually just got rid of that. So we had everything for like MMA, Olympic lifting, everything. And I do Muay Thai myself. So I made a pretty big push to have MMA at the gym. So we got mats, we got bags. I go all out with this stuff. So I got a ring, I got a cage. And we had it for 2 years, a little over 2 years, and it just wasn't picking up, wasn't going where I wanted to. I was actually losing money on it because insurance was so much.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, after that, I was like, we just called it, and we have a big spot, and that area was just used better for more training space, more strongman space. So now we use it for more. We have contests now. We always had contests, but we have more space for the contests. So it works
Yeah.
out better. And the guy who's doing classes, he's somewhere else now too. So it all worked out.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking to a couple people from your gym and they said like basically the new spot's so big that you can when you have your guys' contest now, you can just basically like have them and don't have to like really tear down that much.
Yeah. Yeah. We
So,
just can set chairs up, run a show, run a powerlifting meet. That was my goal. There's another guy I know, Gleason's gym out in Connecticut. He can just have his set up for a powerlifting meet. And I was like, you know what? That'd be so great because every time we run a show, we got to move so much stuff. And then after it's done, you're tired, and you got to move it all back. So I was like, you know what? If we just have it set up at all times, we'd be ready to go. It'd be great.
yeah, that's the dream. Trust me, I saw Dante smirk when you said that because we used to do all ours at my gym and it just got to be so much with tearing down the whole gym. We'd make it like a little arena. So we
Mm.
actually moved to another location. Just it's just so, you can't like put all your effort into the show because you're so tired from moving everything. And then
Yeah.
you're like, everyone leaves and then it's you and
Yeah, I'd
three
stay for
guys.
hours after, or I'd come back the next day, like my one day off, and then be like there all day putting it back together. So it works out
Yeah.
much better this way.
When did you guys move into your new location at Lightning?
We have been there for is it 4 years this February? I believe it'll be 4 years February 1st.
And so,
Yeah.
so what year did Lightning originally start?
2006.
2006. And so since you started in 2006, how many spots have you been in?
This is our fifth
Fifth?
and
What was
hopefully
the,
final.
wow.
I don't ever want to
So
move again. Yeah.
I don't blame you. What was the square footage on the first place that you were in?
It was like 650 square feet.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I only did one-on-one training at that time. So I was a trainer at a commercial gym for a while. I graduated grad school, and then well, it was my partner actually. My partner's the one who talked me into it. I actually didn't want to open a gym. He's the one who talked me into it. So we started a personal training studio, real small. It was on the second floor. We have an insurance place below us that was always mad. We were making noise. So that was our first year was there. And then after 1 year, we went down the road to a slightly bigger spot. That was 850 square feet, little bit better, still just one-on-one training. And then I think we were there for 2 years, moved again to a little bigger spot, and I started doing group training. That's where we had what we had. I think we had that was 2,500 square feet. So that was a big increase. That's why I was doing more group training. And then moved again, the fourth spot, to 7,500. That was a big one.
Yeah.
That's where I had the idea to have a regular gym. So I went from group training, one-on-one training, and then I opened it up to everyone going there because that's when I was getting really into strongman and powerlifting. And a lot of people were like, hey, I really want to go to your gym to use the equipment, but I'm not looking for a group class or one-on-one training. So I was, you know what? Hopefully there'll be enough people here to want to do this to make it worthwhile. So bought a bunch of stuff, powerlifting, strongman, spent like I don't know how much money on it, and like no one joined except for like two people. And I'm like, oh shit. So it eventually worked out, obviously, but that first year was pretty rough. So it's funny
Yeah.
with business where you have people who are like, yeah, 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 we're gonna come, and then who actually shows up is a different story.
I that's 100%. If I had a third of the people that have told me they're going to sign up for the gym
Yeah,
actually sign up, I would be retired, I think.
yeah,
Like, I
I
mean,
know.
we would have, it's crazy.
I've had a lot of people who want to open gyms that did the same thing that I did. They're trainers at a commercial gym and they have a set of clients and they're going to start their own studio or their own gym. And I'm like, cool. I'm like, well, one thing you got to understand is that you have, let's say you have 20 clients and everyone's like, yeah, we're going to follow you. Probably less than 10 actually will, because
Yeah,
that's how it was for me. And everyone I've ever talked to says the exact same thing. So you got to account for that, because that can be rough. You're accounting for that money coming in, and then less than half actually comes in. That can
definitely.
depend on your survival for that first year.
For sure. And that's something I want to get into is because I've actually started getting questions about people that want to open gyms because strongman is so much more prominent than probably when you did your first comp and when you
Much
were
more.
first it's so prominent now where people are looking to open up like specific strength training gyms
Mhm.
where before it wasn't like that. So what's obviously you provided that advice with the finances and stuff like people not following you. Is there anything else that like jumps out at you that would be advice for people to do it or not to do it that are looking into it?
I usually talk people out of doing it. I mean, the reason is if I can tell them all the things I went through, and I mean, I learned from my mistakes. That's a big one. You have to learn from your mistakes, and I made a lot of mistakes. But if I can tell you all the bad things, and then you still want to open a gym, okay, you should want to open a gym. But I've had a
Yeah.
lot of people, their first question to me is, "Oh, how much money can I make?" And I'm like, "If that's your question to me, this ain't for you, because you're gonna be." I was broke for a long time, and that's why most people who open gyms, at least around me, they shut down within, geez, a year or two. I think I have 6 or 7 gyms that closed down. I have like their equipment they sold after, and they were all people who talked to me first about opening a gym. And I was like, listen, you gotta understand, you're not just gonna open it up with cool equipment and everyone's just gonna show up. It's gonna take a lot of time, and you gotta be willing to put in that work and like live there. There was a gym
Yeah.
that opened up in Massachusetts, somewhat close by, and the guy was like, yeah, I want to be like Lightning and have strongman, powerlifting, all this stuff. And then he had it for 3 months. It's a beautiful gym. He had Sorinex outfit the whole thing. He just
Wow.
literally called up and was like, hey, outfit my whole 10,000 square foot gym. And after 3 months, he's like, screw this. This sucks. I hate this. I was like, well, yeah, man, I told you it was going to be rough. And then I bought most of his equipment for a really good price. I was like, well, it worked out for me, but I felt bad for the guy. But some people think opening a gym is going to be just this easy, laid back job, and they're just going to sit back and collect money. And it's like, man, no, that is so far from the truth.
Yeah. Well, that's really good advice. That's very relatable on my end. Um, so just to rewind a little bit, like you had said that you didn't want to open a gym, when you first, like, your partner talked you into it, like that first 650 square foot gym.
Hmm.
So you went to UConn, right?
Yes.
For undergrad and your master's.
Yep.
And so what was kind of your plan when you came out? Like when you came out of college, what did you
Yeah.
want to do?
So I was I have my master's and all that in kinesiology, exercise science. I was a strength coach at UConn, so I trained the athletes there. So that was what
Oh,
I was going to do, was going to be a strength coach. My plan was to be a strength coach for a college, work wherever, maybe UConn, wherever, and then hopefully one day get to the pros and be a strength coach. And there was one thing when I was there, the strength coaches at UConn, and I'm not talking bad about UConn whatsoever. I love it there, but the strength coaches were pretty miserable. They loved what they did. They wanted to help people, and they love coaching everybody. But whenever I talked, they're like, "Yeah, we have like no time to work out. We have like maybe an hour in the middle of the day. We have to go here and travel and do all this and that." And none of them looked like really happy. And I have to train. Like I want to coach people. I want to help people, but like I need to have my time to train. So that was the first time I was like, "Ooh, maybe I this isn't for me." And so that's when my partner at the time was like, he was like, hey, we should really start our own thing. And I was like, I was like, nah, I don't know, that's risky. And then I never forget this. He goes to me, he goes, we're gonna make so much money. Like all that money that we're losing here at this commercial gym, they're taking, that's gonna go all to us now. And I was like, oh yeah, man, that's right. And he goes, we're gonna make hand over fist cash like crazy. I never forget that he said a hand over fist cash was his exact term. I'm like, yeah, we are. Let's do it. And we were, like I said, I was broke for the first like, geez, 10 years at least,
yeah.
So that's where people think like, hey, if I open it, they will come. It's like, man, at least for me, I hope it works out for people out there that they open a cool gym, people are just gonna show up, man. But it wasn't like that for me. It took me a very, very long time to get where we are.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay, so getting kind of away from the business side of things, but more like you as a strength athlete. So from when you graduated UConn, how did you get into strength sports from there? Did you just love to train and like, or had you already started at that time?
Yeah, I always loved the train. That was like, there's always a top priority in my life, and it always will be. So I was out of grad school, started the gym, and I just needed something more. I was just bored just training. Like I love to train, but I needed like a more motivation, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I need to have more of an end goal of what to do, where I was going. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll do bodybuilding. And I'm like looking it up, and I'm like, "Ugh, I don't know about that right now. It didn't excite me at all. And then I was reading Elite FTS, and there was an article about how to do your first powerlifting meet. I don't remember who wrote it. And I read that, and I was like, yeah, this is for me. And I went on to, was it powerliftingwatch.com was the time? They had a site where they just had all the local meets, whatever. And I just found the first one in Connecticut, and it was like 10 weeks out, I think. And I was like, boom, sign right up. Like, wasn't even a question. I wasn't like, oh, let me get ready. I was like, nope, boom, doing it. So I signed up right away. And it like lit a fire into me. I was like, oh my God, this is for me. Like, I have to keep competing. I did my first meet, and then I did another one right away, probably too soon, but I was, you do your first one, you have so much fun. And I remember talking to someone there being like, hey, I'd love to try strongman, but like, I don't know where you do it. And then he goes, oh, have you ever heard of this? He's passed now, but his name is Joe Mugavero. I was like, no. He goes, look him up. He's in New London. He holds a local show once a year. And at the time, it was coming up over the summer. So same thing. I look up Joe. I call him. He's like, "Hey, come down to my house and train." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And I go to Joe's house and he's showing me all the strongman lifts, teaching me everything. And his show is in a few weeks. I bought some Atlas stones from him because I had no clue what I was doing and just figured it out. Like back then, there wasn't videos on YouTube all the time showing everybody or really anyone coaching at that time. So I just bought a log that was Pitbull logs. If you know Pitbull, he
Yeah,
stopped
yeah.
making logs, unfortunately. Bought a lot from him. I was like power cleaning it up and didn't know how to press it. I was pulling sumo because I didn't know sumo wasn't allowed in strongman. They had to correct me at the show. But yeah, see, I did my first strongman show and then boom, I was hooked. That was it.
Yeah. So how was it like back then? So what year was that roughly?
2000. I actually just had this conversation today. It was 2006, and it was
Oh
so funny
wow.
'cause one of the guys, the guys that works for me, he goes 19 years ago, and I was like, oh, don't say that. I was like, that was 19 years. I was like 2006. That's
Crazy.
19 years. Oh my God. So yeah,
So so when you signed up for a strongman called 19 years ago, how did it go? Like, did you mail Joe a check to
he had an
sign
ad on
up?
Craigslist.
Really?
Yeah, no, well, I've never heard. So
That's
because Strongman Corporation was around then,
is
um,
NAS then
but he
or
was, yeah, NAS, but he wasn't affiliated with them. I had no clue about any of this stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he had a Craigslist ad that was there that to sign up. You just like mail him a check, and maybe there's a form. I don't remember if there's a form to fill out. But I remember mailing him a check, and that was it.
Yeah.
But then people at that show were like, "Hey, you should go to NAS, and then here's the site, and this and that." And I was like, "Oh, I had no idea this stuff was around here." And there was still nothing in Connecticut as far as strongman goes. They had a state chair, but they haven't put on a show in like I think like 6 7 years. But there was a lot going on in Mass. So then my first NAS show was in Massachusetts. It was oh, what's his name? He's right up in Massachusetts, not Titan. I'm drawing a blank on his name. But anyway,
TPS?
TPS. Yeah, she's I forget his name. Yeah, TPS. That was my first sanctioned show.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just funny like to if you would compare probably like your process and experience signing up for that show in 2006 versus like what athletes have at their disposal now.
yeah.
Where like, I want to talk about the pro-am you guys have coming up, but like, athletes now need to know every single thing about, you get so many questions as a promoter.
Drives
And it's
me
like,
crazy.
yeah, me as well, and it's some of the questions are, I guess, warranted sometimes, and then some
Oh,
are
some are. I don't want anyone to be
really,
afraid to ask me a question by any means.
yeah, but
What
yeah,
drives
I
me
always
nuts
think,
is like when people ask me, what's the diameter of the farmer's walk? I don't fucking know.
yeah,
Like,
well,
let me go
that's,
measure it for.
yeah, yeah,
These are
that's,
things like when I competed early on, like we never thought of that. We never thought of asking
yeah.
something like that. It was
Well,
like, oh, it's
yeah,
the farmer's walk. We're gonna pick it up and walk with it. I never was like, what's the exact height of the pick? Is it the top of the bar, the bottom? What's the diameter? Like, never crossed our minds.
yeah. I have some crazy ones, and I wish this wasn't true, but I had someone for one of our big shows last year ask me what I anticipated the weather being like the day of our con.
How
And
far
I
out
was
was
like,
it?
I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
Uh,
they can just check the weather themselves. But
yeah, for sure. But no, it just I always like to ask people that have been in it for a lot longer, like what that process was like, because it's so funny. You go from Craigslist, now we have like Iron Podium, and you have
yeah.
all the sites, and the rules are so laid out, and
Mhm.
stuff's getting
Yeah,
more
I mean, there wasn't
standardized.
Instagram back then, so you couldn't just immediately contact somebody and ask them questions. I mean, you could always call them, but I just when the shows I did, I just signed up. I mean, I was like, oh, I'll figure it out when I get there. I remember at the TPS show there was a Viking press. I didn't know what a Viking press was. And I went
Yeah,
there and I was like, oh, okay. And those guys there doing it, like, oh yeah, do this, do that. We all just helped each other and taught, and a lot of those guys taught me how to do it. There's a Conan's wheel. Never picked up a Conan's wheel. Never had access to that, and everyone was showing me how to do it. It was just more. I mean, everyone is in strongman awesome, and everyone helps each other. It's like a big party, which is what I love. But back then, it was different because a lot of people just had no clue, and I feel people today wouldn't do a show unless they have it to train with, the exact implement to train with sometimes. And that frustrates me where it's like what we used to do was like, ah, we'll have some fun, we'll figure it out. And now it's like, well, my farmer's walks are an inch lower pick and this and that, so I can't do this show.
yeah. Well, you probably see it at your gym. People will wait for an implement. Like, I mean, your gym, you probably have like 20 plus logs
Yeah. Oh, we have
available.
we have way too many logs.
But
Yeah.
people will wait for a specific one when there's the same even diameter
Yeah.
log.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah. If they're using the rogue log at the Arnold, whatever. We
Yeah,
only
yeah.
have one rogue. And I had someone out. We have 12 inch logs.
Wow.
A lot of log. What the hell do we need that many logs for? We don't even need that.
Yeah, right.
So, and then we have a bunch of tens, but then someone was like, "Can you get another rogue log?" And I was like, "Why?"
Yeah, we have
Oh,
12.
someone, it's for the contest, and then it's always being used. I'm like, pick another 12-inch log. Do you really think you're going to be that much better training on this one log, this one training session? That to spend $1,000 on shipping all that for another log for just one show? Like, you out of
Right.
your mind?
Yeah. Isn't it funny too? You can as a gym owner for like a strongman gym, you can almost tell what events are coming up in bigger shows without even looking at the like event page because people you get questions from people that want to like drop in, they want to use equipment, they want
Oh
you to
yeah,
buy new
yeah, yeah,
equipment. Like, Kabuki trap bar pops up, the Rogue log,
yeah.
you can just kind of
Yeah,
it's
and
funny.
granted, and I do buy them everything when there is something that comes out that they need. Like we put in the hoist lift for the Arnold. That was
Yeah.
pretty cheap and easy actually. But we do have two of the Kabuki trap bars, which they're great trap bars. So I mean, I love those
Yeah.
bars anyway. We have that Bardos log, which is a great log too. So we do have the specific ones that I do like having. But like if a new log were to come out, I'm not buying you guys another log. Like we have so many
Yeah.
as it
Yeah.
is. Or like, we have
Well, yeah.
three, we have actually technically four yokes. So there's like enough for everybody to do these things, and you don't have to wait for anything.
Yeah. That's one thing I know from people that I know that train your gym. They always are very complimentary of how well you take care of like the strongman athletes. So that's definitely a nod to you.
Yeah, there's a big show coming up, and I always look at the events. I'm like, okay, what do we? If we don't have something, I'll make sure we do have it for them. Like that hoist lift, like that's something you need to train on. You can't just like pull a sled with a rope. It's not gonna be quite the same thing. But it was
Yeah.
also very easy and cheap to put together too.
Yeah. Yeah, that helps. Um, so you've coached a lot of athletes in strongman. And how did you develop? Because you kind of had mentioned in like 2006, no one was really even coaching strongman. How did you develop yourself into a strongman coach and like a strength? I mean, not just strongman coach, but like obviously you have the background in college, but like, was there someone you looked up to and like philosophies that you picked from, or was it kind of self-taught as you continue to
So
compete?
yeah, it was definitely self-taught at first. So as I competed in strongman, people just wanted to keep coming to my gym, and I would just coach people at my gym. So I used to do actually strongman classes. I have certain times where I'm like, hey, we're all going to do the log today, and people just join in, and we all just train together. Like me and Rob Kearney, the Hadges, Carlos Reyes, we would all train together and really teach each other and learn from each other. But how I became a coach for it is probably when online coaching started to grow, I just started getting messages from people. I never even thought of trying to be an online coach, but I would get messages on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, emails, and people asking me, and I was like, oh, this is something I can really do. So that's how I got into it. I never advertised for it once. I never posted, hey, 3 spots left, or nothing like that. People just, which is cool. I think that's great that word would spread like that because a lot of my members would do well at shows, And then they know, oh, they're at Lightning. Oh, who's your coach? Matt's my coach. And then they just go, oh, I want to, what's his number? I want to call him. So it's all referrals. And that's really how business goes too. I'm sure with at your place with your members, if you take care of your loyal members, they're going to sell for you.
For sure. Yeah, we do no advertising, which is great. Like we don't. So yeah, it's just all been word of mouth, which is
Yeah.
amazing. You
Yeah,
know.
I spent my fair share of money on advertising when I was earlier on, and it was always a waste. We did a radio ad one time, and I'm like, man, this is gonna blow us up. This is gonna be great. Spent all this money on a radio ad. It was a cool ad too. We got like two phone calls, and they both were like, "What's your prices?" Okay, bye. I was like, that was it. Big radio ad,
Wow.
two calls. I was like, wow. So it took me a
Yeah.
while to learn to not even bother with that kind of stuff.
Did you have influences or coaches and athletes that you looked up to when you were coming up? Like
Yeah, so
people.
someone who coached me for geez years was Josh Bryant. I learned a lot
Okay.
from him. Yeah, I didn't have a coach at all. Like when I got my pro card, I was 30 years old, and then I started working with Josh after that. I was with Josh for, geez, almost 8 years. Yeah, I'd say I
Yeah.
definitely learned from him. Yeah.
That's awesome. And you have your pro card as a middleweight, and you've dabbled in, heavyweight shows. You've won America's Strongest Masters. You've done bodybuilding now. Like, what's been kind of your most memorable, I guess, moment or two in strongman? Like, was it like the pro card? Is there something else that stuck out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky enough that I have a couple of moments that really stick out. One, as soon as you said that, sticks out to me is was the Arnold. So when I did America's Strongest Man, took third place, and then I was able to do the Arnold like a few months after that. And then there was, I think it was 50, almost 50 amateurs at the Arnold that year, and top 10 make the second stage, the main
Yeah, yeah,
stage in the second day. And going into it, I was like, I got no shot at this. I'm just gonna go in and have some fun, whatever. So I ended up doing really well. And I was in ninth place after day one. I was like, oh shit, I gotta go to the main stage. And we had a max log on the main stage. And I'm like, shit, I didn't even train log because I was like, I'm not getting to the main stage. We had dumbbell clean and press. So I just did dumbbell clean and press. I'm like, I'm not going to do a log. So it was first time as a Slater log, first time I've ever even seen one like that. And I'm backstage with a bunch of these monsters, and I can't even clean the log. It was 300 pounds empty. I can't even clean it because it's slipping off me so much. And I was like sweating, so I was so nervous. So the guys backstage, and everything is so funny. They take spray tacky. They're like, "Matt, just use spray tacky." I'm like, guys, we're not supposed to use that. And they're like,
yeah.
"No, it's fine. We all do it." And they just spray the shit out of me. I'm stuck. I'm all sticky. And I go out there, and I think the opening line was like 325. I go out there, I smoke it. I'm like so jacked up. And then the second one, I was able to do 350. And it was pretty funny because the announcer was also a middleweight pro. He's announcing me. He's like, the smallest man here with 350 pounds. So I'm like, I weighed like 245 at the time. And it was just funny because now that 350 for at that weight is like nothing. Everyone does that. But at that time, 350 was a pretty big deal for me. So that was probably my biggest moments were main stage, big crowd, max log press. That was my most memorable one. But
Yeah.
also coming back for, like you said, America's Strongest Master. That was another one. I was not expecting to win like that. I hadn't competed in 4 years. I had a lot of injuries. And I had two elbow surgeries on both my elbows. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go in here and have fun. I was like, whatever happens, happens. It seems to be a lot of my best performances were just going in and having fun and not
Yeah.
taking it too seriously.
Yeah, that's how I think it is for a lot of people. When you start to overthink and over prep and everything like that, it actually ends up sometimes turning into a negative.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
We've all had that happen too, where you
for
get
sure.
overly stressed, put too much pressure on yourself, and you do poorly because of that. Rather than just remember, this is a hobby. You're here to have a good time. Go out there and have some fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it is silly when you think about it. Like, in the moment, obviously you should care to you as much as possible because you care about it. We love training. But when you step back and think about it, it's like, why was I overly stressed about that? Like
Yeah.
I love doing it. I just want to go compete, whatever. It's definitely good advice.
Well, it's tough because you spend a lot of money on this sport too. You travel, and all the food you spend, and you go and you have a really crappy show. It sucks. It really sucks.
Yeah,
And you're like, oh, this is a big waste of money. But it's also just part of the sport. You're gonna have good days. You're gonna have bad days, no matter what.
for sure. And so you've put up some really good numbers in powerlifting, and now you're dabbling in bodybuilding. The powerlifting we kind of talked about, you did it like right after you graduated. Was bodybuilding just always kind of like a goal, like a side quest for you, or
It
like,
was when I was younger. I read Flex Fitness, Muscle and Fitness, all those, and so I always had that goal in mind to want to do bodybuilding. But then as I got older, it just didn't like I didn't have that draw to it like powerlifting and strongman. And even powerlifting, I found kind of a little boring after strongman. I don't know if you've done powerlifting before, but I just find strongman to be just so much fun and exciting. And you do a powerlifting meet, you're like, all right, this is cool, we're lifting some heavy weights, but overall, the vibe of the whole place just isn't the same as strongman. So I've done like about 10 meets, I believe. And I'm definitely done with powerlifting. I have no desire to go back to that. But
yeah,
yeah, bodybuilding is always something I wanted to do, like a bucket list kind of thing. I've done two shows so far. And at this point, I'm 42. Like I said, I've had a lot of injuries. I unfortunately, not that I couldn't do strongman, but I really shouldn't. I really don't want to have surgery. I've had 7 surgeries due to lifting. So I really don't want to have surgery number 8. So I want to just keep things safe and do bodybuilding, but I really just need something to train for. I need that goal. I need to compete in something. So it
yeah.
can't be strongman. I got to do bodybuilding then.
So are you only doing bodybuilding now, or do you think
Yes, yeah,
okay.
yeah. I was planning on doing America's Strongest Master, and then that was it. One show, come back, boom, that was it. And then I won it, and I was like, maybe I could try to come back. So then I was training for OSG. I did the regional qualifier, and I did qualify for the Worlds. That was what, it was December, it was last month.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just had my elbows were giving me problems, my back was giving me problems. And I was like, yeah, I remembered why I stopped doing this and retired from the sport. So
Yeah.
I just want to play it smart, be safe, stay healthy.
So, yeah, it makes sense. Especially after doing it for that long and going through 7 surgeries. I
Yeah.
don't blame you.
Yep.
You know what I mean? How did you get involved with Elite FTS as an author for them?
I always read them, and I don't know if you remember the underground strength training videos they would do.
Yeah.
I would always watch those, like, man, I want to be at that gym training with those guys. Like like, I really want to be there. So I always read their articles, and then I got sponsored by Lift Big Eat Big, if you remember them.
Hmm.
They were something powerlifting, strongman, CrossFit, and I started writing for them. And then over some time, I think it was a couple of years, I bought a lot of equipment for Elite FTS. So they knew who I was because my whole gym was outfitted with Elite FTS. And then when I left Lift Big Eat Big, I just submitted an article because anyone can submit an article to Elite FTS to write. So I submitted an article on how to do a farmer's walk, and they liked it. They shared it, posted it. I was like, oh, great. And then it was when I they're more powerlifting than the strongman.
For sure.
So it was right after I pulled 800 at a meet is when I got the call from Elite FTS. I think I don't know, it was that day or the next night or the next day, wanting me to be an athlete and a writer for them. And I never, I'll give it to the guy from Lift Big Eat Big, Brandon. He like forced me to write. I never, if you would asked me 20 years ago before, I would never say I'd ever be a writer. I was a horrible writer, and I still am a horrible writer. That's why there's editors. But I never would think I'd be writing articles for a website at all. And they called me to write articles for them once a month, and I did so for, geez, I think 5 years. So I'm still affiliated with them. I haven't been writing articles as much as I have been.
Yeah. Your Farmer's Carry article was in April of 2013 too, if you were wondering.
Oh wow,
So
yeah, way
yeah,
back. Yep.
it's pretty cool. I know I've read a lot of your articles like when I first because I came over from powerlifting into strongman, years and years ago now, but you were always one of my favorite people to read on Elite FTS. So you have some I really encourage people to go on there and Matt has some really cool stuff. Like you had that program for getting back into lift the gym once like post COVID. I
Oh
don't know if you
yes,
remember
yes.
writing that,
Hmm.
but I really like that. I referred some people to that article,
Well,
and
that's
I
awesome. I
mean,
appreciate it.
yeah, just I mean a ton of stuff. There you have the powerlifting strongman hybrid as well, which I think
That
is
was
cool.
and I will say this now, that's probably my best written program I've ever done. Most
Really.
popular. I had a lot of people say me they got great results, but like just my whole thought process on writing that program, that's easily my best one I've ever written.
Well, and that's why I think you're such a good author is because obviously you train, you've done it, you've got the iron credit, but you also are in the gym and you hear the questions that people ask, and that is a big question. Like, how can I do powerlifting and strongman kind of at the same
Yep.
time? Obviously, it's not going to be optimal ever to do both at the same time, but there's ways to do it. and that's a really, really awesome program. I know people that have done it actually. So
Yeah.
um
So how
yeah.
that happened was I've done it myself. There's been many times I would do a strongman competition and then be like, oh, there's a meet in 2 weeks. Cool, I'm gonna do that too. Looking back, is why I have so many injuries from just pushing the gas pedal the whole time. But I had a great time doing it. But I would get a lot of people that would want me to coach them, but wanted the same thing. They're like, hey, I want to do a hybrid of powerlifting and strongman because I want to compete in both. So that's what led me to write that program on there.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um So upcoming with the gym, we did talk about the space, like how you guys kind of just run a show. And I know you have Connecticut's Strongest Man, and you guys have done that in the past, I believe, right? That's
This
been a
is
show.
our 13th year running the show.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but this year was a little bit of a change being a pro-am.
Yeah.
And I'm a strongman corp state chair in Pennsylvania, so I understand, like they're trying to do the pro-ams a little bit better and more organized and stuff. So, did you come up with the idea to do a pro-am, or did like members want to do it, or
I've had
like,
members ask. I actually wanted to do one with when it was Dion a few years ago, and it never happened. And then when they put that out there, I was like, I asked James, and he was like, "Oh, absolutely, definitely want to have a program at your gym, be great." And then they just wanted to have it for the later classes, which I was totally fine with. I just wanted to have a program. I didn't know you could only do two at a time, though. I don't know if you knew that, but you can only
yeah,
do
yeah, you got to have the man and the woman, the
yeah,
men and the women to
two men,
pair
two
up.
women. That's all you can't do. I thought our show was going to be every class was going to be a pro-am class, so every
Yeah,
class
yeah,
could win a pro card. That's what I thought it was going to be, which is fine. It's fine the way it is. It's better because that's a lot of prize money to put up.
it's a lot. It's a
So
lot with
that's actually it's better for me because I'm prepared to lose money in the show. I really don't care about that. I just wanted to have it.
yeah,
A lot of my members want to have it because I got to put up about $12,000. I'm looking for sponsors, but I'm like, I'm not counting on making 12 grand. So whatever. If we lose money, we lose money. I just want to have the show. But especially with the space we have right now, I was like, we got to do a big show with what we have going on right now.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, if people are out there and they have strongman affiliated or strength training affiliated companies, I definitely urge you to get out and sponsor it
Yeah.
because I know it'll be a good one. Um, so what are some things like you guys will do to like generate, like, I mean, are you just planning on, I mean, sponsorships? Is there anything else that like you'll do that's creative to bring money in, like, so it's not just a complete loss on your end?
Yeah, this is the first time I've ever asked for sponsors. So
Yeah,
yeah, I put a post out on Instagram about putting it on the back of the shirt, make a post about you. If you want to, you set up a table there, and let's say you're a supplement company, one of the guys owns a supplement company, he can set up a table, have samples, things like
yeah,
that. So, but that's fine. Like I said, if we don't, we don't. I mean, I'm just happy to have the show. Really,
for
my
sure.
my main concern was running. If I mean, you run shows, and actually, a lot of my guys did your show last year, and they all said
Yeah,
great
yeah. They
things
did our
how good your show
regionals
was.
2 summers ago. Yeah,
Okay,
they're a
yeah.
great, great
They all
group of
said
guys.
very good things how good it was, how
Well, that's
well run it
awesome.
was. Because it's hard to run a well run show. And for I've done I don't know how many 60 strongman shows I think. There's been so many that were so poorly run that they just didn't have enough help. And it'd be like, oh, we're starting at 10 o'clock. It's like almost 12 now. Like, come on.
Yeah,
And then we're there until 8, 9 o'clock. There was one show where they were past 10 o'clock. And so from my experiences, whenever I run a show, I never want that to happen.
yeah,
So my whole thing with this show was if we're probably going to have like 100 competitors. I'm just guessing. We had 70 last year, so I think a pro am would bring out more. I
right.
want to have a fast, efficient show, so I want to pick events I can run quickly, that I can run more than one at a time. So the events we have are very simple. Just log clean and press, deadlift for reps, yoke 80 feet, farmers 80 feet, then keg over bar. They're
Yep,
pretty simple and like and I would say boring because I don't think anything's boring in strongman, but like I didn't want to get too fancy because I don't know if you run shows, you try to get fancy with events, you're like, oh, this is gonna be a really cool event, and it might be a cool event, but now you have to change weights for everybody, and you can
yep.
only run one at a time now. Now this event takes 3 hours, and you
Yep,
could
that's happened to
run,
us one time. We've
yeah,
got caught one time in a comp, and it was just trying to do a medley that was just too much,
yep,
and it was too much resetting and stuff. And because, yeah, actually, it's funny you say that about volunteers because I put out a video after our last show, and people ask, they want to run a strongman comp because it's a lot easier and more accessible now. Number one thing I'll give as advice is have more volunteers than you think you need.
exactly,
Honestly,
yes,
it's
I
not
do that
even
too. Yep.
It's not even close. Like if there's one piece, it's more than you think.
Yeah.
People are gonna let you down. People aren't gonna show up. People have to leave early. It's yeah, but
There was one show we did, and the guy who helped out, or he everyone he had who helped out, they all left. And
yeah,
so
it's yeah,
me and our guys stayed for like another a couple hours helping him put everything away. I felt horrible. I was like,
yeah,
man, the whole team just was like, nah, we're leaving. But like you just said,
uh,
you ask for more help than you actually need. Whenever I put it
yeah,
out there, I'll send an email out to my members. Hey, I need help, whatever. I tell everyone, yes, 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 come help, come help, come help.
for
And there'll be
sure.
times where people don't have much to do, and I'm like, hey, I'd rather have that than frantically trying to do things and not have enough help.
100%. I'd rather have guys sitting and watch, and then you can almost have like pit crews,
Yeah,
like swap in and out. And honestly, you hit the nail on the head, in my opinion, with the simplicity of events because I talking to competitors, myself as an athlete. I would rather events be more blue blood, like true events, than be like super fancy and run a little shittier. Like, you're doing a pro-am, right? And your events, pretty much anyone that has any bit of access to strongman equipment can train for your show.
and that's
I
big
mean,
too. Yeah,
I
that's
mean, dude, you're
important.
gonna have a log, you can deadlift, yoke farmers, and you probably got a couple kegs,
Yeah, you can find a
And if
cake
you don't,
somewhere. Yeah,
even if you don't have kegs, man, load a sandbag,
sandbag. Yeah,
just two loads. So that's, I mean, yours is about as true strongman as it can be with those events,
yeah.
like,
Yeah, because when I
yeah,
talked to Katie about it, she was funny. So she was like, "Oh, well, you could do a max deadlift," and I was like, "We could do a max deadlift, and max deadlifts are a lot of fun." But I was like, "Katie, that's gonna take probably about 3 hours." And she's,
yeah,
"Oh yeah, it'll take a while." And I was like, "The last thing I want to do is be at this show running until 7, 8 o'clock at night, and then having the spectators get bored. You know, if we
yeah.
keep it fast paced, if we run three at a time the whole day, we'll be done by 3, 4 o'clock."
Oh, for sure, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, we've done okay with maxes, but the things that have gotten me and like as an athlete has been like someone trying to do a power stair. Like power stairs are hard to reset. I don't know
Oh
if you have a
my God!
story at all about being at a show, if there's ever been a like an event that's run long,
Yeah.
but
Oh,
man,
we did that one time. We did power stairs one year, and I will never do it again.
I mean, you don't think about it until it's too
Nope.
late, how much resetting it is.
So we started by we take them down each step ourselves,
Yeah, yeah,
and that was fine for the lighter classes. And then we're like, fuck, we are exhausted.
yeah.
And
Then it
so
starts
then what
getting
we did,
heavier.
we put crash mats to the side, and we
Push
just
it off.
dropped them off, and then rolled them back into place. But even that was hard. I was like, oh my
Yeah,
God, never again. I remember I was
yeah,
so all my helpers were dead after that show. And I was like,
yeah.
nope, never doing power stairs again.
Yeah, I remember Dante and I did a regional show a couple summers ago, and uh, the power stairs broke halfway through, and they had to repair them. And then,
The actual
like,
stairs broke.
yeah, the actual stairs broke, and they had to repair, and they were able to repair them very like well. They were really nice power stairs. They weren't like janky like homemade ones. It was just shit luck
Yeah,
where it just but then, like, by the end of it, they had like older ladies who were just there, like taking score and being scribes, like helping reset the power stairs. That's how much like they need. It's like, man, never,
yeah.
never. Oh, yeah, I'm sure everyone has a story about that with an event in strongman. It's went
Yeah,
long.
so I've learned over making many mistakes. Like, yeah, I mean, maxes are cool. I mean, I would do a max at, we've done maxes plenty of times at our normal shows. I just wouldn't want to do it for this one, anticipating a big show.
Yeah. Especially if your first time, it's not your first, like you've run so many shows, but your first time doing this new
At this
format.
level, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. I
I
mean,
really don't
it's
want to have any mess ups or anything go wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you go to set up a show, like this is Connecticut's what, 13th, you said, do you come up with the events and the weight matrix, or do you kind of have like a right-hand man or a team or anything? Or like is it pretty much
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, it's pretty much me. I come up with the events. I will listen to my members, the people who compete, are always asking me about, oh, it'll be like, like November, October, whatever. And they're like, oh, what do you think for the show? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I was like, I was like, what do you guys want to see? So I'll listen to what they say,
Yeah.
what events they think they want, they want to do, and even well, actually for the weights for this show. So we usually have a pretty heavy show. With a pro am, we got to make it a really heavy show. I mean, just the pro am classes, of course. And I talked to my guys that are at that level, and I was like, hey, what do you guys want to see for weights? Because I was like, I feel like I thought I was a little bit out of the loop as far as what the weights are for a pro am would be. because I picked weights and they were like, these are a little light. And I'm like, I'm known for going pretty heavy. I was like, these are light. Okay. So I had to look at like across the board at the bigger shows, what are the 80s and 90 guys doing for reps? And I was like, shit, man, people are getting crazy strong right now. So I basically let them pick all the weights for me. And then I looked everything over and I was like, okay, this is what we're going to do now. And I was like, yeah, we have a pro show with lighter weights. They got to be heavy enough. And then same with the women. I looked at all these shows and what women were doing for the log press, for the deadlift, and then I applied it to ours to make sure they're on the same level.
Right. Yeah. That's interesting. It always helps to have people that are close, even if you're like active in the sport, and obviously you are like, even if you're not competing, you have all these athletes around you. It's like I always find it hard, like some women's classes that aren't as popular and stuff like that. So I do the same thing. I'll reach out for
Yeah.
advice,
I
you
found
know.
it's been a little the last couple of years we haven't had as many women competing, and most promoters I talk to have said the same thing. I'm not sure why, because years ago, well, my first show we had like 3 or 4 girls, and that was kind of typical way back
Yeah.
then. And then little by little, we started having like half the show was women. We'd have 80 competitors, it'd be 40-40. The last couple of years, we haven't had nearly as many. I'm not sure why, because
Y-
powerlifting, we have a huge amount of women competing still.
Yeah.
That's still 50-50, I'd say. But strongman, I've just noticed a drop off. I don't know why.
Yeah, we have too. We just did our annual winter show, and we were really low on women this year. I think like 9 or 10 out
Yeah.
of our 60 competitor or 50 competitors.
Hmm.
Yeah. And one thing I like that Strongman Corp is changing, and it's a rule I kind of didn't think I would like, but if you're the only one in your class, you can still qualify for nationals. And the reason I like that is because I think that women have always had a hesitance to sign up because they're like, oh, I'm going to travel and spend money to do this show. And
Yeah.
I'm a 140 woman. There's no one in the class yet. No one's going to sign up. So now it's like, I like that for those less represented classes because there's plenty of people that are super like nationals level ready,
Hmm.
and it's like, if the participation's there, I don't think a girl should be punished
Oh no,
because
it's
she,
not their fault. One
yeah,
thing I said, I made a video last week about our show. And one thing I said about it was, and maybe you noticed this too, is people will wait to sign up. They'll look at a class and they'll want to do it, but then they're like, "Oh, well, no one's signed up yet. I'm just going to wait and keep looking at it." Meanwhile, there's five
exactly,
other people who are doing the exact same thing, and I'm like, if you
exactly,
all just sign up for the damn class, you'd have a full class. But everybody waits, and then the show passes by, and everyone complains, "Oh, there's no one there." I was
yep,
like, man, just if you want to do a show, just sign up for it right away.
agreed. And you'll probably get to go earlier, and you get to wait and go
Yeah,
later
you go
after
later on
everybody.
anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely, I agree with you on that. Um, with with all your experience in, obviously owning the gym, but training for so long, when new people come and you see, I'm sure you see new lifters getting into strongman in your gym. And if they ever ask advice or someone that's new as a client asking for advice, what's like some one or two big things you give people that are new to strongman,
So
advice
one,
wise?
I mean, obviously have fun. Two, usually in Strongman there's a crew to work out with, right? You have people at your gym. Like when I first got into it, we would do Strongman Saturdays. I would train by myself during the week, and then Saturdays we'd all get together and train whatever. We deadlift, we do stones, whatever. But it's such a camaraderie that everyone helps each other. So a lot of people who get into Strongman, I've noticed, I mean, I've seen at my gym over the years, is they find some of their best friends this way. That they all train together, but you got to look for the right kind of people to train with. It's such a positive environment. But like I said, have fun and then meeting the right kind of people because they usually when people do that, they compete and then they have the best time ever. And then right away, like, when's the next show? I want to do another one right away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So yeah, that's one thing that always drew me to strongman was like I remember, and powerlifting was still a good environment, but I remember going to my first strongman comp and like people that I was going against were cheering for me
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And it was such a weird eye-opening experience, and then it, made me love it. And I think too, if you train with a crew, it makes competing easier. Because you're used to being in like a group of people, like even in like the warm-up room, it's very similar to training, where it's just a bunch of guys, having fun. So I agree with those. That's a really good advice. Have fun and have a crew,
Yeah.
basically,
I
right?
just feel people lose the having fun part over time. And they just take it too seriously. I mean, of course, the bigger shows take it seriously, but you got to remember why you're there. You're not making money. You're not famous for anything. I mean, very few guys in the sport are at that level where they can make a living of it, right? So,
100%.
yeah.
100%. Yeah. Um, and one last thing I wanna bring up before we let you go is something that I tell people about all the time. Is and I wanna ask a couple questions about it, but you have the most interesting role as a gym owner, and a lot of people talk about on social media. It's the putting your weights back and getting fined.
Yeah.
So
I think I'm the first person to find people for leaving their weights out.
I think you definitely
Because
are.
I was talking with Dave Tate on Elite about this. He goes, you're the first person I heard of doing that. So I, I came in one day to my gym and I was getting mad because people were leaving their weights out. You know, we're small back then. We were a smaller private place. I just expected more out of my clients to not leave their weights out, and it would happen here and there, which okay, people forget. This particular Saturday, I never forget, there were 8 things in my gym loaded with weight, and I lost my shit. And I was like, that's it, everybody. I was like, everyone's getting fined $20. You leave your weights out. And I think people didn't take me seriously because I emailed it out there. I put it out there. I was like, hey, this is what's going to happen from now on. I had cameras already. And then I started finding people. And people were getting, like, some people not like mad at me. They're like, oh, he really fined me. I was like, yeah, man. Like, I told you this was going to happen. So I just kept doing it. It was $20, and then it kept happening. I'm like, really, $20, fine. I was like, now it's $30, and same thing over the years, like kept happening here and there. Because like I don't want to find people. I really don't like doing that. Like I want people to just put their weights away. I don't want to waste my time looking at my cameras trying to figure out who did it. But then now it's like, well, now it's 50. It just keeps going up. So now I have
That's
a
awesome.
rule: if you leave it out once, it's $50. If you do it again, it's $100. And I've
Holy
actually
cow.
had actually a couple of funny stories. I had one guy, so I find him left his weights out. He calls me and to argue with me about it, and I'm like, yeah, man, like you knew the rules. He'd been here for like a year. He goes, well, it's the first time I ever did it. I was like, yeah, man, like it happens, no big deal, like Um, he's like, well, I don't feel it's right. You should charge people right away. And I was like, hey, this is my rules. I'm very strict on them. I don't mess around. So he was upset. And then I get some reps from the state show up at my door the next morning. And they're like, yeah, we had a complaint about you, that we had an anonymous complaint about you. And I was like, yeah, okay. So they hand me the letter, and it's complaining about me finding people, how it's, I forget how he said it, that's not right that I find people and someone needs to do something and step in and stop me from doing this. And I was like, I can find people if I want to. It's my own business. And she's like, yeah, you can do whatever you want because we just have to give you this letter. I'm like, okay. So I actually framed the letter and I have it up on my wall because I find it hilarious and I
That's
know it was this
awesome.
guy too. It must have been this guy that did this. So that was the funniest one about it. But then I did have one guy who canceled his membership. He left. I still remember this. He left a back machine loaded with 45s. There was 8 45s on it with a 25 on each side. And I was like, so I fined him $50. He then got so mad at me that he's like, cancel my membership. This is ridiculous. I've been a member here for years and blah, blah. And I was like, hey, man, you broke the rules. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, it's your fault. It's not mine. Like, I enforce my rules. So
Yeah.
I've lost only one member from
Wow.
finding people. So not too bad over the years of me doing it. And I've also a lot of times I use that money to donate. I donate it to like animal shelters or like some veterans things. So I do donate to things. I'm not just trying to keep everybody's money and be an asshole, but
Yeah.
it goes to a good
Well,
cause
that's
at
really,
least.
I think that statistic is really like interesting because I would think you would lose a lot more. I guess it
I've
just
yeah.
demands
I've
I
talked to
think
a lot of gym owners about that because I've had a lot of gym owners actually call me and they have the issue of people not putting their weights back. They're like, hey, I put signs out, I email whatever. And I'm every time like, listen, you unless you find them money, they're going to keep doing it. Like you can bitch about it all you want, an email or an Instagram and whatever. They're not going to stop because they don't. I don't want to say they don't care, but like they don't have the fear that something's going to happen because they leave
yeah.
their weights out. They're like, oh, I forgot. Oh well. But
Yeah, they're
I've
gonna
had
have
people
this
turn
human
around.
being.
They started driving home and have turned around and come back to the gym. It's like, oh shit, I left my weight out. So they turned around and come back, put the weights back
Yeah.
because they're afraid of being fined. So, and even with $50, it's a lot of money. I still, I still find people probably 2 or 3 times a week.
Wow.
It's not bad for how many members we have, but it still happens quite a bit. And every time I do it, I'm like, man, And so when someone signs up at my gym, I verbally say, "You read the rules?" They're like, "Oh yeah." I'm like, you know that I find people, right? I was like, and I always say, I really find people. I'm not joking about this. If you leave your weights out, I will find you. So be careful about that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. And it's always a new person who just signs up that leaves their weights out. But I'm
Yeah.
very clear about those rules. So, yeah, like I said, one person isn't too bad. But when gym owners call me about that, I tell them all those things. I'm like, hey, I've lost one member over. I think I've been finding people for like 8 years, let's say, one member over that time that I've lost, and I have a lot less frustration with putting weights away because
Yeah.
people are afraid of being fined. So
Yeah.
for anyone out there who owns a gym, like don't be afraid of doing it. Like most of my members like that rule because none of them want to go to a machine. Like I have teenage girls, I have women in their 60s or 70s. They should not be going up to a leg press loaded with 45 because some asshole left them all on there. Like, it's just
Yeah.
not right.
Definitely. We're very fortunate in that aspect where maybe once a week I have something left out, but it's very few and far
That's pretty
between.
good.
Yeah, it's well, I'm very lucky because when I opened the gym, we actually went like, we were in a little two-car garage, whatever, and then we just locked into a huge location. And so I had my like training crew, like my strongman crew already with me, and I think they kind of just started the culture where like if someone left something out there like, "Hey man, we don't do that here." And I think it just kind of has like
Yeah.
resonated for the last like 4 or 5 years where but I think there's something to your defining is like it's like the shoe off policy when someone if you keep your house clean, people
Oh, I've
take their
made
shoes
people
off.
wipe my floors who track dirt
Yeah,
in. Oh yeah.
well, that's what I'm saying. It's like
But
people.
that's what I say to them. I say, if I'm
Yeah,
going to go to your house, I'm not going to walk in your house with mud on my shoes. Like this is my
yeah,
house.
yeah. Well, I just wanted to. I That's like one of my favorite stories telling. This is my first time ever really talking to you, but like I tell this to so many people. I'm like, there's this guy Matt Mills that owns this gym, and he actually finds. I've told members this. He actually finds people for doing that, leaving weight out,
Mhm.
and they don't believe it. So I wanted to make sure I had that
Oh, it's true.
up. Yeah. Well, that's
I'll even
awesome.
post the receipt sometimes on the Leighton Fitness stories. Whenever I find, not all the time, when I find somebody, I'll take a screenshot of the receipt, like proving that I find people. Because I'm like, I feel some people think I really don't do it. And I'm like, no, I really, really do.
Yeah. And it comes back to what you said with like the money. It's like people have to have that skin in the game to feel it like real. And the
Yeah.
only real thing is money,
It is.
whether,
It's sad. I mean, and I always say, I'm like, I don't. I feel bad when I do it. Whenever I find somebody, I generally feel bad finding them $50. I really don't want to do that. Like there was one time, a parent was paying for the kid's membership, and the kid left his weights out. And when he signed up with the parent, I said, make sure you put your weights away, or I'm gonna be finding your mom's credit card. Oh,
yeah.
okay, yeah, yeah. And then I find his mom's credit card. The mom called me all mad. I was like, hey, I told you.
Yeah. And I think I heard you talk about it on a I think it might have been a podcast back in when I first had heard about this. And you said like there were just some members that like just did it and just didn't care and just kept doing it. And you're like, well, if I'm gonna clean up your weights, I'm gonna make money off it. You know?
I think the record is one guy's left his weights out 6 times.
Oh
I
wow.
find him 6 times. And I said to him, hey man, I find you 6 times. Like I really don't want to do that. Like you really got to pay attention. And
Yeah.
he was, oh, I know, I'm so sorry. I just forget sometimes. I was like, all right, man, like if you want to keep forgetting, I'll just keep finding you. But
Yeah.
because
Right.
this was the point where it's like, I don't know every single member of my gym by their face, at this point. But for him, I was like, oh, there he is. I know that guy.
Yeah.
I saw him because he's done it so many times.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, Matt, I really appreciate you coming on. This is a great discussion. I encourage everyone to follow Lightning Fitness and also Matt's personal Instagram, Mills Fitness, Mills Fitness on Instagram. Is there anywhere else that obviously I mentioned the late FTS articles, but is Instagram your primary?
Yeah, mainly Instagram. Yeah, I have, geez, I think I have like over 50 articles on Elite FTS. That'll be the best one, especially I have a bunch of free programs up there. Anyone looking to get into strongman or powerlifting, yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's so awesome, Matt. And, we really appreciate the time. Make sure you guys are checking out Matt's stuff. If you're ever in the area, stop by his gym. And thank you again, Matt.
you're welcome. Thank you for having me.